Hello, welcome to the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission. The time is 7:30, and the first thing we'll do is call this meeting to order and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All of us are here tonight except for Mr. Wally Posiak, who informed me that he had an engagement that he could not get out of this evening. So he is, excited to hear what's going to be going on. We'll fill him in, and sorry we're missing him tonight. So we have the agenda before us. Is there any additions or deletions? No? Can I get a motion to approve the agenda?
Second.
Great. All in favor of the agenda as is? Say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Great. Next item on the agenda is the approval of the meeting minutes from November. Did everyone have a chance to look at those? I know Aaron did send them out.
Yes.
Great. Can I get a motion, if there is no changes, can I get a motion to approve the meeting minutes?
So moved.
I second it.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Great. Motion passes. Now is the time for the open public comment. We do not have anyone with us tonight, so if somebody does come in later on, I will reopen for public comment, but other than that, we're going to close it right now. The next item on the agenda is the update on the PAC assessment. And Al, can you fill us in?
Yes, the PAC assessment has been reviewed by the board. Let me turn this on. Upon our review of the PAC program, it's put forth that we will submit a resolution to the Township Board for their approval. We've completed a rough draft of that resolution for everybody's review. Does everybody have a copy of that? We're not going to read it out loud. It is pretty lengthy, but what we're going to do is make any final changes to it and then submit for the January 14th Township Board meeting for their approval. Once we do receive approval, and I'm hoping that we will then start to put together an open study session to initiate the assessment process. So that's where we stand right now with it.
Great. I think the most important thing within this memo here is probably the line where it says that the BPAC, or Bicycle Pedestrian Advisory Commission, recommends that Township approve participation in the program and commit to its implementation via resolution. I think that's kind of general in its nature. The rest of this provides ample information about the program, including that we're going to require the help from other township staff. And we don't know the exact level of commitment that we need from each of the staff members, and we're encouraging them to look at it as well. And I think through our upcoming study sessions, we can kind of formulate how our method of attack. Maybe we see which questions would likely appear to be for various staff, and then we can sort of organize that and have them as part of our study sessions or one-on-one work in a subgroup. But I think this letter over here is good information. I definitely appreciate that Al and Aaron worked hard on this. And I was wondering if any of you have any questions about this specific letter here, or have any additions or deletions, and if not, maybe we can get a motion to basically recommend to the township the participation in the program and then commit to its implementation via resolution.
So just to make sure that I'm clear, that this resolution that we're reviewing right now will be submitted to the board in the January meeting for their blessing?
Correct.
Is it the 14th or the 15th? 14th, the other meeting we're talking about. January 14th or 15th?
I am not sure on that exact date.
We initially set the date as January 14th, their first meeting of that month.
And Wally does have it on the agenda already, so if just basically waiting for our, official recommendation to them, and then they can make their resolution. And I think it's, right on time, because that's when the PAC program starts for the year, and we'll have, about 6 months to complete it. And I'm thinking that if we're having a series of study sessions, that we should be able to get a few of these 14 different areas accomplished each month. And so I think we're right on time.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
Would it be wise for this group to also perhaps have a study session or a subgroup look at what we should recommend as the first parts of study to present to the board, along with the approval of this, stating that, we would like to interview these areas or kick off with these goals in mind in the next, 60 days or whatever, so they see where we're heading straight out of the gate?
Mm-hmm. I was thinking that, in January, we're going to be having, at least the meeting that, we have a lot of work to get done. So I'm thinking that we're going to have several study sessions over the next, month or two. And I think that would be our first order of business. We'll talk, a little bit more about that later, but I'm thinking that our official meetings, as well as any other ones that we need to have, will be, we'll have those in the next coming months on that. And of course, we will make sure that there's at least 18 hours notice via the Open Meetings Act, and allow any of the public to come and be a part of these study sessions.
Maybe an idea, like 6 months in advance, like figure out, prioritize the 14 agenda. Maybe we can come up with 3 for February, 3 for March, 3 for June, and focus, nothing but this. Focus on it, and maybe in May, finalize everything.
Yeah, I think these are great ideas. We just want to make sure that we do get approval from the Township Board before moving ahead with this.
One thing I think we can do that would help to educate everybody, and that's really going to be the hurdle we have to get across first, is that I will forward a complete copy of the PAC program to everybody on the board so they can start studying it prior and get familiar with it, so we're not wasting our time during our study session trying to get up to speed on any of the issues. It'll give us all a little bit of working knowledge before we even get there.
Mm-hmm. And if anyone has maybe several questions, 2 of the commissioners, or maybe even 3, not more than that, can meet and just start to think about some of these ideas and bounce ideas, start to come up with the ideas that we can submit as part of the study session. So I think work can get done outside of these televised meetings, as well as the study sessions, and because it's going to need to be done to get done by the July deadline. So, great comments. We'll make sure that we do that. Is there anything else that you guys would like to add as far as the PAC?
Sorry, study session, it doesn't mean less than 4 people or all of us?
If it's less than 4, then we do not have quorum, and so it's not an actual official meeting, and as well as no action. There should be no discussion of actual how we'll vote on specific issues, or in any attempt to make decisions outside of a public meeting. So by making sure that there's not a quorum, which in this case would be having 4 people, it's another step to show that we're not trying to usurp the Open Meetings Act.
So we can have a meeting with all 7 of us then?
No, not all 7 of us.
No.
If it's all 7 of us, it needs to be a study session, and we'll need to provide at least 18 hours notification here at Township Hall, as well as, in my opinion, I like to have that information on our website, as well as the Facebook page, the unofficial Facebook page.
So either or will be fine?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, with that, can we get a motion?
I'll motion to approve.
I'll second it.
Great. All in favor of approving the above, letter to the Grosseal Township Board about the PAC program, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion passes. Next item on the agenda is the Horse Mill Shared Use Path. There's been a lot of activity on this. There's been some looks at what we can do from a cost savings, because as we identified before, as part of the bike path millage, we simply do not have the funds to do the path from its initial actual start and terminus from Meridian all the way to Park Lane. So Gary has some ideas that he shared with me that I'd like him to share this evening about different options for decreasing the costs. And then all three of us, Gary, Al, and I, can talk about the TAP grant submission.
There's been no meeting to discuss cost options. Period. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, aside from that, as we mentioned at last meeting, there is the Transportation Alternatives Program, or TAP, funding opportunity. And there was a call for projects which closed last Friday. So I had Al, basically prepare a application for us. I assisted as well with Gary's help and many other township staff as well as others. And Al, would you like to talk a little bit about it?
Well, we made the decision last Monday on the 10th, I believe it was, at the township meeting. Afterwards, we discussed possibly applying for the grant. We only had until Friday. So we started the brainstorm, and we wanted to see if we could get the required information together. So we collected it as well as we could. We collected the existing proposal for the 8-foot and 10-foot path, and we submitted it. And it'll be reviewed through, I believe, mid-January until they make a decision, and they'll vote on which projects they're going to fund money for, and hopefully they'll get one of them.
Great. Yeah, I mean, I was impressed at how quickly we were able to put this application together. I mean, we of course we had the plans for the 8-foot path. We also had the bid estimates that Gary had given us before. We had the bid estimates from the 10-foot path that was originally proposed back in December of 2011. We put in a narrative basically explaining about how initially it was supposed to be a 10-foot path, but the cost prohibited that, and we brought it back down to 8-foot, and we still didn't have the cost for that. And essentially that, this is a good project that connects open space, connects, blueways as far as, scenic waterways. It connects us to the downriver linked greenway system, as well as to the National Wildlife Refuge. And so we're hoping that SEMCOG as well as MDOT can see the value within just spending a little bit of money on us, and they can help create a larger network. And I personally want to thank Dale Ream for getting us all the information that we needed, as well as Supervisor Loftus for helping sign an application, as well as Wayne County Roads for actually turning around the sponsorship letter in record time. So we got everything in by Friday. So hats off to everyone on this commission. Hats off to Gary for helping us out as well, and especially Al.
So if we were to be awarded this TAP funding, would it pay all or just portion of the funding for that bike path?
It would not pay all. So at the very minimum, and at the most, it's going to pay 80% of the costs. We have to come up with 20%. But the Regional Clearinghouse Committee at SEMCOG, or RC2, which is made up of elected officials, they're the ones that will be deciding, which projects actually get funded. So SEMCOG staff will be organizing a lot of the grant applications, pointing out certain information and presenting it to the RC2, and the RC2 will make that final decision. And since this is a brand new program, SEMCOG specifically is not sure on what they're going to require, because some of it is subjective. So there is a chance that they might ask certain applications to bid more than 20%, do more than 20%. And within our application, that we did say that we're able to do more than 20% if need be. And we submitted the application at, calling for the 8-foot path. But we also recognize that MDOT in the past, as well as SEMCOG, has referred to AASHTO, American Society of State and Highway Transportation Officials. They put out a guidebook that gives guidelines for how paths should be designed, and the present document actually calls for 10 foot, so we understand that, but it also makes mention that in certain situations that the path can be decreased to 8 feet, and so we're justifying it on the grounds of that, one, we don't have the money for the 10 foot, but two, our existing paths are 8 foot, three, that we're in a more rural setting, and four, that Horse Mill does have lower traffic volumes, so more confident cyclists might be still taking the road, and that would mean that you need less width actually for the path.
Thank you. So one more follow-up question. So of this grant or this funding, is it a bucket of money that is going to be distributed amongst multiple grants? And if so, do you know the number of grants that went in to apply for this?
I do not know the official number. I think that it was more than 20. There's $5 million, and I know for a fact that there was a variety of projects that had different price points. So depending on the pricing, the projects that they pick and the amount of money that they specifically request that needs to be matching depends on how many projects they'll actually be able to fund. So it's by no means a guarantee, but I figured that it didn't hurt for us to apply.
Well, if by applying we have a 1 in 30 chance of at least getting something, so that's better than nothing, right?
Yeah.
Brian, I have a quick question. So I assume we'll find out in January if we receive any money, and then when will we be able to use the money? How soon?
Well,
If we're chosen.
if we're chosen, we need to have the project obligated, which means have everything ready to begin construction basically in July. So my guess is that if we have good cooperation with Wayne County on whatever loose ends that we have as far as that, as long as the construction company has the time to do all the work, I'm thinking that we should be able to get started in the spring or summer.
Thank you.
Okay, you mentioned that if we win, we can get 80% from them, right? Mm-hmm. Do we have enough money, 20% in our bank?
Yes, especially for the 8-foot path. Gary, correct me if I'm wrong, I believe that the costs for the 8-foot path were at about $369,000, is that correct?
No,
Okay.
393.
okay.
I believe. But if you're talking about awarding a contract in July, those numbers aren't any good. We'll have to rebid. I don't think bids are going to be good after 6 months. And I would suspect the price will go up.
Okay, well, we'll see how it goes, but fingers crossed. Okay, if there's no other questions, we can move on to the next item, which is bike path fund balances and administration. And Gary asked me to put this on the agenda, so I'll take it that he can lead the discussion.
What we should be getting the fund balances every meeting. I've asked this is the third time, for both bike path funds. And we should have control authorization to make recommendations directly to the township board on the use of those funds. The final decision, of course, is theirs. But if we are truly a commission, we have fiduciary responsibility over those funds. There have been other bodies within the township that have expressed a desire not to give those funds to this commission. If we don't have control over those funds, we are not a commission. We are at best a subcommittee. We're a commissionette.
Commission-like?
Whatever. And so I want to know when we're getting them.
Very good points, and I appreciate you bringing this up and hoping that we are not actually receiving the monthly updates on those. Based on our quick phone conversation where you told me that you wanted to talk about this, I did speak with Dale Ream, and he did look up and see that the both funds are under our administration. They're under our actual budget, and I expressed concern to him based on what I heard from Gary, and Dale is checking into it, and so we should have some more information in the near future on that. I'm pretty confident so that we do have the administration of those funds, but this proves that we do need to be coordinating more with the other commissions, and I would think that if there are some people that do have a concern or a desire to see how those funds are done and they wanted to do so outside of this commission, that we should encourage them to be a part, come to our meetings, as well as, maybe we can make the effort to go to some of their meetings and, just make sure that we're in communication with each other and see that, we're getting along and that we can make mutual decisions.
So based on Mr. Bailey's observation,
It was on TV.
my question to you is twofold. One, how do we get statements, at least of those funds, reported here to this commission on a monthly basis so we can all see the statements? And they could be part of the public record here for those that decide to attend. And two, as a byproduct of that, how do we make sure we close the loop with Dale checking into this and reporting back to this commission that, one, we will be getting those statements, and two, that we are the owners of those funds or the gatekeepers of those funds?
That's good.
Aaron?
Do we maybe need a treasurer who can be the go-between and talk to Dale and present us with those numbers? Because maybe it's just the administrative power isn't there to put together that for us. Like, maybe the information is there, but it's difficult to organize and provide to us?
No.
No, is that not the case?
I think it is.
Okay.
I think Ann's got it. It's just a matter of having it put in our packets.
Yeah. And
Okay.
Because it goes to another commission at this point in time.
yeah, I think, first of all, I can talk to Dale and make sure that we follow up to ensure that these funds are within, that we are the stewards of these funds. And secondly, I would think that a motion tonight, recommend, asking Dale to, ensure that these, fund balances are included with our packet each month. I think that would go a long way as an official statement, and I will double check with him and let him know that that was included in our meeting minutes and see if that sticks. Does anyone have any other ideas?
No, I think if we get the information from Dale, and I think then we can make it public record, documented, and I think if we can then get the statements to review so that we can be good stewards of this funds for the citizens of Grosse Ile, I think that's how it should be played out.
Right.
I think Rob's right on with it.
Okay. So how should we word this motion?
Something along the lines as a commission appointed by the Township Board of Grosse Ile, we believe our responsibilities are to be stewards of the funds associated with the commission, and we ask to have financial statements providing updates in a timely fashion, i.e. monthly, for our meetings, and to validate that we are within our expected rights and or responsibilities to the board.
Great.
How does that sound?
I think that sounds good. Aaron, my pen ran out. By any chance, did you write down?
I'm sure we can get it after
Okay,
this.
great.
We'll grab it off the video.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Okay. Yes.
If not monthly, maybe at least quarterly.
They're provided monthly.
Monthly, fine.
Okay.
Oh,
Better go home and take it.
Yeah, it's pretty standard.
Great. With that, can we get support?
Or,
All in favor?
aye.
Aye. Great, motion passes. Thank you, Gary. Thank you, Rob. Appreciate your, your steadfastness on this issue. Next item is a summary of the Downriver Linked Greenways meeting. I did attend that meeting on December 6th. It was myself representing Grosio, as well as I was representing SEMCOG. We did have the Trenton Recreation Department there. We had the Downriver Linked Greenways. We had the Detroit Wildlife Refuge, as well as we did have Wayne County Roads. And they're moving ahead with putting in a path, connecting the Wildlife Refuge up to Elizabeth Park. So it will be, we're looking for funding specifically still, but things are lining up because it seems that there should be some funding from Wayne County, as well as Wayne County Roads will be redoing the intersections of Jefferson and Van Horn and Jefferson and Grosio Parkway in 2014. So as part of that, redoing the intersection is they'll be updating the signals, and so it's a good time to be putting in a pedestrian phase for that pathway. And the idea was that the pathway will be running on the east side of Jefferson, and it would cross Grosio Parkway, and then it's going to go into Elizabeth Park and be running along the canal. And I forget specifically how it'll tie in, where the terminus is, but it's basically a path to get you along Jefferson and connect into the park.
So where will it connect into the park at, approximately? Will it be off the parkway itself, or will it be off Jefferson?
It'll be off Jefferson, as far as I know. But
Where?
I'm sorry?
There's no access to the park at present off of Jefferson. The bridge is closed.
Yeah, that's what they'd have to fix that bridge.
I would think they'd go back the other way, what road is that in Trenton there? That's where the main entrance is.
Slocum.
Yeah, sounds right. I'm not sure.
It could be. I know that it'll be running along the park, and it'll be in the actual park land, because Elizabeth Park is on both sides of that canal over there. As well as the Trenton Recreation Department is updating the recreation plan, and so they're looking for input on that plan, and they do have a website, and I'm going to include that on our website so people can link to that and provide information. But the planner specifically requested that people outside of Trenton actually provide input as well, because they recognize that there's surrounding communities that have residents that use Trenton facilities as well. So we'll be having another meeting in January, and I'll have more updates then. But it's good to see that things are moving forward on that. And with our two efforts, us here with our Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Commission, as well as Trenton with the recreation plan, that hopefully we can find a way to make sure that our residents can connect to that system.
Was there any discussion of a bike path on Grosio Parkway on the Trenton side of the Trenton Channel? Because without that piece, we're always going to be an island unto ourselves as far as linking up to this greenway.
It wasn't a part of the scope of this specific project, but I did mention that.
Okay.
And I was also talking to the landscape architect, for the county parks, and I had made mention that, even if there wasn't a path that went all the way up to Jefferson, that perhaps there could be a way that we could gain access to the park via the marina that's there currently. I know that half the time, half of the year, basically, you can cut through that parking lot and get into the park. So it would be nice if there was something official. Okay.
Yeah, maybe like a little mini trail, like a bench. You go into Marina. Maybe have a little trail on the outside of the fence.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of cute.
There's a variety of ways to get down, the actual, design, and I don't want to micromanage, Wayne County Parks or Trenton, but I will continue to, bring up the issue that, Groseal residents needs a way to get to the park and need a way to connect with the rest of the downriver linked greenway system.
Well, I can tell you from past experience, Mr. Koziak has been pushing that issue 15 years, and he has, you can see we've had no success as of yet, but we're all hopeful. I appreciate everything you've done, Brian.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate your guys' effort, especially, over the last 15 years on this, and, I've heard a lot, I'm newer in my career. I haven't been a planner for 15 years, but I've been around about 8 years as a professional planner, and within that time I've seen a lot of changes, and I've got lots of colleagues from SEMCOG and MDOT and other road agencies, and the pace of change is, it's amazing. It's things are so different now than they were just 5 years ago. So we want to stay realists and realize that things do take a long time, and don't count on anything, but at the same time we can get excited that hopefully there will be even more change in the future, and things are going to get better.
Maybe with the influence of the rest of the country, the bird and bike trail will be influenced, hopefully. Also, people are changing their diet. Hopefully we can motivate other people to make some changes.
There's changes in administrations, from township level up to the state, to the federal government. There's changes within, public health. There's changes within resident sentiment. People are asking specifically for these facilities. That's why there's a commission here today. Is that that the township realizes that this is what residents want, and I agree with them, and I'm excited. Any other comments specifically on the Downriver Linked Greenways meeting? Great. Moving on, we have our park bench or miscellaneous issues. These have been truncated recently because we have moved some of these into different items, but we still have the issue about the bike rack locations and fountains, and Gary shared an email with me about moving forward with citing some of those locations.
I had a brief meeting with Mr. Ream, and he indicated a willingness to go ahead, and as I indicated to you, Brian, he's waiting for a letter from you or a memo. He does not need a formal resolution asking the township, since he has control over the buildings, and he thought it was a good idea that we need the bike racks. With regard to the fountain locations, I believe there are two, I'll call them groups, I forget the names, that have donated money for fountains along the bike path, and he would like, you could put it in the same letter, he said, no point in wasting paper, I think was his term, just recommended locations for those.
Great. I'm thinking that we can hammer out, our methodology within the upcoming study sessions. Either the formal one in January or any of the other ones that, I'm thinking that we're going to need either in January or February. And then from there, we can, type up that memo. And like Gary said, we don't need a specific resolution. But I'm sorry, Gary.
Just ask for a bike rack to be placed at, public safety and township hall. Why do we need a study session?
If there's any other specific locations, I believe that there are other township properties, and I just wanted to ensure that that we were going to include them if we felt it necessary. But perhaps we can just write the memo now, as you're saying, what we know, get that underway, and then we can, do analysis for other locations in the future.
Well, I mean, if we know, and I guess I'm speaking for myself, but I thought I was speaking for others too, and they can speak on, that public safety and Township Hall need bike racks. If we can start with that, and I'm not saying that, we couldn't put them other places depending on who has control of those facilities. One, so.
Okay.
Mr. Ream, I believe, has control of those two buildings.
Gary, is it fairly simple to complete these projects, I guess, a la carte, for lack of a better term?
Yeah.
Or should we group them all together? I think that's probably what Brian's referring to is maybe we would just group them all together, but if it's not a problem to...
As you and I have discussed, to get a bike rack, it's like, ordering one and having the guy deliver it and putting it up. If you don't want it permanently mounted like the bike racks at Save-On or Kroger or something, you just take it off the truck and set it up. And if you don't like where it is here, get 3 guys and move it.
But do we want some of them permanently mounted?
And the question is, what type of bike rack are we looking at? Are we looking at the schoolyard where you're just basically putting your wheel into the mechanism, and so in some cases you lock your wheel up and then someone can take the rest of your bike? I'm not saying that happens here in Grozio, but it is a possibility. So maybe perhaps we can provide our recommendation on what type of facility, what type of racks we'd like to see. But I do agree that it does seem pretty straightforward, and so perhaps we can just get these two out of the way. If anyone wants to volunteer to write that memo, we can get that done and over with, and look at other locations as they either become available or we get into our actual non-motorized planning process.
I'll take on writing that memo to Dale regarding the bike rack locations.
Thank you. One thing I'd like to also add is I did bring up at the Grozio Planning Commission meeting that our desire to have bike parking as part of the site plan process, and the chairperson was interested in it, and he did say that basically if we would provide them documentation on what type of ordinance we'd like to see, they would entertain the notion. Okay. Mile markers. Al, do we have anything on that?
We do. I have a committed Boy Scout from Trenton's Troop 1721 that has committed to making his Eagle project. I don't want to say mile markers, but at what interval we'll decide. He can start the program probably as weather breaks. He is asking us to give him input on how we'd like it done, what type of material, maybe consider making everything uniform so it stays the same as we grow. It's not a second project that comes up later and they use different markers or anything. We want to keep it uniform. Directional signs, whatever we suggest, he's willing to take on as his Eagle project. I do even have a second Eagle potential Eagle Scout that would follow up with a second project if we developed one. So we've got some worker bees here that are really excited to do something. I would like to make a motion that we discuss these standards maybe at one of our study sessions, come up with a sound guideline to follow, whether we want it to be thermal tape or maybe a high-tech two-part epoxy paint that is impervious to weather conditions and heat and all the things associated with that, and set a standard for them, and they'll start their project.
Is there a cost point that they're looking at, or are they looking at certain materials that they need in order to complete their project?
An Eagle Scout project, they must submit a plan. They have to do the fundraising for that plan, have it approved, and then they don't necessarily complete the project, but they supervise the completion of the project, so other scouts will help them. It's a little more complex than just going out and doing it. They need a approved plan. They will submit one according to our needs, and once it's approved, they just start the project. So they will do all the fundraising for it. They also have the ability to ask for donations. So they could go to somebody who may provide some of those supplies and ask them to donate. But that'll be worked out as they determine what they need.
Great. I mean, I would feel comfortable looking at this at a study session level. I personally don't feel comfortable in committing just yet, but it sounds like that it's the same way. It's like it's part of the process that they have to actually submit a plan and get it approved by us. So based on that, I'm comfortable with moving forward with at least us internally looking at what options we might be interested in, as well as once we have some ideas, maybe sharing them with the township board, or maybe going out to the public and asking them what they're looking for. I don't want to make any decisions for everyone out there, but I think we can guide this process. But this is just my opinion. Aaron, what do you think about it?
I completely agree with what you just said.
Jane?
Pretty good.
Gary or Rob, do you guys have anything?
No, sounds good.
No, I think it's a good idea. One thing I would like to think about is maybe instead of mile markers, maybe we move to metrics. I mean, it's getting to that time of, that we need to catch up with the rest of the world. So just a thought.
Great.
Canada, right across the country, across the
That's right.
You need metric too.
Yeah, then we could mark it as an international bike path. Good thinking.
The funny part is that this bike path is going to play into our path program also. They're going to ask you your infrastructure on the bike path. What do you provide things like bike racks, and do you provide break areas, and does it go through a business district? All this comes into play in the PAC program. So these bike racks that we spoke of, they're going to come back into place as we start doing the PAC program and start assessing everything. I'm sure the markers on the bike path might be an aspect of that bike path. So it all comes back. So one big picture.
Yeah. Additionally, the thing that we'll be maybe thinking about in the future is wayfinding signage in general. There are standards for that, and a lot of the new wayfinding signage, it'll include a route marker. It'll let you know about destinations that you're going to, as well as some of them include the mile marker as part of the system. So perhaps the mile markers that as part of this Eagle Scout project could be supplemental to that, or perhaps we wrap these together. I'm not exactly sure, but it's going to be fun talking about this.
I think it's important to have a uniform signage on this bike path too. I don't want to really mix things. I would like to see it all, my opinion is, I would like to see it all uniform. It gives it a little bit better look, and like Rob said, even including the metric marker would be kind of neat.
Yeah. The danger is putting the cart before the horse, because we've got excited people here, and we've got a great idea about the mile markers. But again, making sure that it's all part of a plan, that it's uniform, that we figure out the actual units of that we'll be using. All that can be worked out in these study sessions.
To them,
Yes.
keeping a uniform for Gorgia, should it be uniform with Trenton, Wyandotte?
That's a very good point, and that's something that we'll look at, because there's standards that MDOT has specifically used for St. Clair County, for their entire county, and there's standards that the SEMCOG MDOT Regional Non-Motorized Plan may be looking to include, so that way there's proper uniform between different parts of our region. In that case, it makes sense to also look at what our surrounding communities are doing.
Also the Greenway too. We don't match. Another question, I don't know if it's related. With the bike rack, should we have both guys use the bike rack and declare it?
To what?
Okay, we talk about bike rack, just put it there if it's good enough, or should we declare it? Can we make it the Eagle project? So they can declare it. Use the Boy Scout.
And look at that.
I'm worried that if we have a bike rack at the police department and it's not safe to put your bike there, then I don't know if I want to be in this community, so.
I agree. Yep. Okay. The last item we have on the park bench is just the assessment areas, and the major reason why I included this still on here is to let our viewers at home, as well as our commissioners, know that we're not dropping the subject, but as Aaron had mentioned last time, it's a process, and I think that also makes sense to be a part of the study sessions before we present anything to the public about our findings. So that's all I'm really going to say about that issue, so more to come. Is there anything else that should be added to the park bench? Any other issues that you guys have seen in the last month? Great. With that, I'll move on to the chairperson's report. As we made mention earlier, that January 15th is our next scheduled meeting. I propose that be a study session, so it will not be televised. But again, the public will be encouraged to come to our meetings, and we will hold it here at Township Hall. More than likely, it will be either in the first or second floor conference rooms. Additionally, there might be the potential for future study sessions during the month of January or the month of February, or in the future as well. I just want to let the public know about that, and so we'll always try to have one of the study sessions or a meeting on our specific date that we have assigned as the third Tuesday of each month, but there may be more, and we'll always provide 18 hours notice for that, and we'll include notice of that at Township Hall, on the Township website, as well as on the Facebook page. And last, I already made mention that the City of Trenton is updating the recreation plan. They need to do that every 5 years in order to stay competitive for the grants. We just did that, I believe, about 2 years ago, so they're on a little bit different cycle than us, but they are looking for comments. So we are going to include a link to the recreation page on our township website. So other than that, that's all I really have to report. Is there anyone else that has anything else that we should be reporting today?
I just had a question that, and between Christmas and New Year's, for my work, things are rather slow, so I didn't know if that would be a good time to have a subcommittee meeting or another study meeting if others on the board felt that same time would work for them.
I'm open to it.
I'm good.
Potentially.
Okay. Maybe we'll, after this, we'll send out a doodle poll with the dates, figure out what that is, make sure there's enough time for public notice, and we'll get one in December as well.
All right. Thank you.
Anyone else? Al, Aaron, Gary, Jane?
No.
Great. With that, I would like to entertain a motion for adjournment.
I'll motion.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone. I appreciate you guys coming out. We're doing some great work here. Thank you, everyone in TV land, for viewing us. And drive, walk, and bike safe. And happy holidays.